Hello guys, Crispy here and welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm going to be testing the GeForce RTX 4070 Ti in Cyberbug 2077 with the new DLSS 3 update. This one is the Palette Game Rock Midnight Kaleidoscope version of the card, and I can't believe I actually said that sentence without cutting the video, you know, because it's very hard, it's a very big name. We are running it with the latest Nvidia drivers at the time of recording this video. I am not manually overclocking it, and you can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Up's GPU-Z. Resizable bar is enabled. We got 12 gigs of GDDR6X VRAM and 7680 CUDA cores, which curiously is the same as the amount of horizontal pixels in the 8K res. So we're definitely gonna try that out. Over on the left, we're pairing it with the 13th Gen Core i5 13600K and 32 gigabytes of DDR5 clocked at 6000 MHz dual channel. Let's get into it, shall we? First up, let's go over the settings. I'm starting this at 4K using the high settings with high textures. Just gonna disable FSR over here because I want native resolution testing first, and the motion blur, turn that off because it looks terrible. Over here, we are using the high crowd density, and let's go. Okay, so we're getting 50s at native 4K without ray tracing and the high settings. I was expecting a little bit better, honestly, guys. But the good thing is DLSS as well as FSR in this game at 4K resolution look basically the same as native res. So I would totally enable those technologies and play like that with 60 plus FPS all of the time. Probably. We'll see how many FPS we get. Goodbye, Bob. Still not dead, by the way. There he is. Come on, come on. Bob. Bob, please just die already. Can I just proceed with the benchmark run? I cannot do this if you're still alive. Thank you so much. All right, there we go. We got a decoration. New decoration in our car. Look at that. Beautiful. Oh, yes. No, it's the ugliest decoration of all, actually. Anyway, around this roundabout, things are not really dropping too much. Still getting like lower 50s or so, around the averages. That's pretty good for Cyberpunk. Like, it's playable like this. If you get out of the car, you can get like 5 to 10 more FPS. That's why I benchmark it inside of the car driving around, because it's more intensive. So yeah, you can actually get 60 FPS in some scenarios, even at native resolution. Again, you don't need native resolution, in my opinion, in this game. It's such an intensive title, and it looks so beautiful even with the upscalers that I don't think it's worth using native res unless it's for benchmarking purposes. But yeah, if you hate DLSS for some reason or FSR, well, you can't really get 60 plus FPS at 4K native high settings. I was expecting at least 60 average or so, but then again, my 4080 got like 65 FPS. What? How did they clip into each other? I don't know. Let's stop it there and enable that DLSS, alright? So I'm gonna use it on quality, which a lot of people think is a bit too high for 4K res anyways, but this is definitely enough to put us well above 60 frames per second at all times. It might be a little bit sharper of an image than native resolution, you know, a little bit less noisy as well, for sure, I can tell you that, but, you know, the difference is, if you we're seeing this side by side, they're not major, and this is totally worth enabling. Right now, it's still not DLSS 3, by the way, with the frame generation. Oh boy, okay, there we go. Bob, goodbye again. Why is the car like bumping? I don't think it's... let's continue. But yeah, as I was saying, this is not with frame generation yet, so you don't have any input lag introduced by DLSS in this case. Reflex is also enabled, by the way, but, you know, it feels as responsive as ever. These are all real frames, by the way. That's what I'm saying here, you know. Frame generation introduces an AI-generated frame every other frame, and that's how you increase FPS tremendously. It also doesn't look as good as without frame generation, of course, but it's really, really impressive anyways, and it's definitely passable, and it looks great even on 4K. Alright, so that's the end of it. 85 FPS average, 63 1% lows. So these are the settings that I would recommend for someone with a 4K display, who doesn't care about ray tracing and wants a 60 plus FPS experience all of the time. Now, what I want to test out is frame generation on and DLSS on quality over here, and this should give us an insane boost in FPS. Oh yes, look at that. 100 frames per second. That's really nice, and it looks super similar right now. Wow, that is very impressive, guys. I mean, I can't really tell any weirdness with the image. If you are playing this back at like 0.25 speed, you might be able to catch some weirdness, some artifacting, but in real time, it doesn't matter. It looks really good still. Maybe it's slightly softer than native resolution, but I mean, it looks super good. I don't know what else to tell you guys. This is very impressive stuff. Input lag still feels all right. It might be a little bit more noticeable than previously at like 80 something FPS. Yeah, but even moving around here in first person, I can definitely switch targets easily. Yep, not a problem here. No major input lag, basically, so this is nice. I would probably disable FG at these settings, honestly, because it was already really good at quality DLSS, and it didn't drop from 60. And, you know, we're only getting, like, what, 20 more FPS than without FG enabled? Oh, I think I saw a little bit of weirdness going on, an artifact, you know, because of FG. But it doesn't really happen that often, or at least you can't really notice it that often. I'm gonna stop it there, and we're gonna go ahead and disable the frame generation as well as DLSS, so we're back to native 4K res. Yep, 50 FPS right there. And I want to check it out at 1440p. Nvidia actually recommends this GPU for 1440p gaming, so this is, again, 1440 at high settings with no upscalings enabled here. And wow, okay, 100 frames per second. We basically doubled our FPS compared to the 4K results here in this area, at least. That's very impressive. That means that for a native 1440p monitor, it's going to be an amazing experience, you know? Kind of high refresh rate-ish, not super high refresh rate. You're not going to max out 144 Hz even, but 100 FPS on a high refresh rate monitor feels way smoother than 60 FPS do. So yeah, anyway, let's move on. We still got this car. What the hell did you do? Like, do you have a magnet or something? What happened? Why are people like... I don't understand. Let's go. This is not frame generation, by the way. It's just the bugs of Cyberbug. So that GPU utilization is still maxed out here, so the i5 is doing a great job. It's starting to fluctuate a little bit now that we talk about it. I saw like 90% GPU usage. We might be reaching the limits of the i5, actually. I thought we wouldn't. Only at 1080p, maybe. Hello, guy. How's it going? Stop sleeping here. How can you sleep with the freaking explosion next to you? I don't understand. Anyway, let's continue our run. This car is way more beautiful anyway. 107 FPS average so far. And we're starting to be CPU limited. Now, in a CPU limited scenario, whenever you have a little bit of a CPU bottleneck, which is not really the case here for like 99 or 98% of the time, you will want to enable DLSS frame generation. If you can't really get like 60 plus all of the time, and if you're seeing a little bit of stuttering, which we aren't here, of course. But yeah, it might be worth enabling that under a CPU-bound scenario, because it basically doubles your FPS and it gets rid of CPU bottlenecks. So that's very, very nice to see. I'm going to go ahead and enable DLSS on quality now at 1440p. I think it looks a little bit better here on my 42-inch monitor when I enable DLSS, because the image gets a little bit sharper. It isn't as blurry as it was at native 1440, but you know, that's because I am using a 4K monitor. Probably on a native 1440p monitor, it would still look a little bit sharper using DLSS. Why do you gotta do this to my car, dudes? Come on, stop it. Oh boy, just exploded. We need another car, please. Where are the cars at? God damn it, policemen. Why am I saying policemen? Policemen. Stop killing me and shooting at me. Oh, they got their... Never mind, I was gonna steal their car, but... Okay. Oh, we got our first car again. And Bob is dead. And there are flying sacks of Bob's boogers or something. Like, those are green. Yeah, probably. Alright, anyway. So now we are actually reaching the limits of the i5. As you can see, 70% GPU utilization there with DLSS. Okay, that was to be expected. This game is super CPU intensive in this particular area right here. So, yeah, I was expecting to see like down to 100-ish FPS. Still an amazing experience, don't get me wrong, even with the CPU bottleneck. The i5 is also a little bit better in this game than my previous 5800X 3D, so it's a decent update here, or upgrade. But yeah, even without the frame generation stuff, we can get 123 FPS on average, which is buttery smooth. Now, with frame generation and quality DLSS and 1440p, holy crap, dude! Alright, this is where the magic of frame generation shows. Like, at 4K we gained like 20 frames per second and the experience was almost the same, at least on high settings. But now, at 1440p, going from like a 70-80% GPU utilization scenario into 98% with frame generation and 190 frames per second on average so far, that is just phenomenal, guys. I mean, this is fantastic new tech, like we haven't seen anything like this in the past, while making the game look really similar to quality DLSS. Once again, I can tell that it's a little bit softer, but I mean that smoothness, guys. If you're running a 144 Hz monitor, like a high refresh rate panel here, and yes, there is a little bit more input lag, but honestly, I can't really tell at these super high FPS anyways. It doesn't really matter to me in a single player title, you know. If it was like Warzone, for example, or Apex Legends with DLSS 3 and frame generation, I wouldn't enable FG because of the input lag difference. But in these single player titles, it's worth it if you want the high FPS. Anyway, that's it for 1440p. Let's try it out at 1080. Is stupid. I'm just gonna disable DLSS and frame generation first at 1080p. So right now, what is happening? Why? What the hell, dude? That little thing just wrecked our car. So weird, so weird. But anyway, this is the limit again of the i5 13600K. If I call it 10600K, it's just because it's easier. It's not a 10600K, obviously. If you enable DLSS on quality, things won't really change too much. As you can see, GPU usage goes down even further. It's just because we are putting even less strain on the GPU whenever we're using DLSS here at this resolution, and more strain on the CPU, which is already giving all of the frames that it can. Now, the thing is, when you enable frame generation with quality DLSS, oh my god. We're back to 90+% GPU usage. The game still looks decent, honestly. It's not super soft or unbearably soft, you know. You can play like this, absolutely. Goodbye, Bob. Where is he, by the way? He's there. Yeah, he's dead now. Good stuff, good stuff. And it's now a competitive Cyberpunk experience. 200 frames per second. It's actually lowering GPU usage now. If we had a faster CPU, even with frame generation, we could see higher FPS in some scenarios. But yeah, this is just madness at this point, and I don't think anybody's gonna play like this unless, again, for some reason there start being competitive Cyberpunk people. But yeah, this is completely bonkers at this point. 200+ FPS almost all of the time. It's crazy. DLSS frame generation is absolutely crazy. Alright, lastly, for high settings, I want to check it out at 8K res using the same high settings. I'm just gonna disable the motion blur here. No upscalers at the moment. And this shouldn't run at all, because 12 gigabytes of VRAM are not enough to output decent frames here at 8K. They're completely maxed out at the moment, as you can see, and the RAM usage is going up because of it as well. So it's just not possible whatsoever to play at 8K native res using the high settings, but that doesn't mean that it won't be playable using some upscalers. So let's try out DLSS on quality first, without the frame generation stuff. Oh boy, oh, this is good. This is way better. It's not good, you know, it's cinematic frames here. but it's good compared to what we were seeing previously. Now I can actually drive around and drift around and stuff like that. Not bad. Not bad at all. Look at that. Wow, it's starting to become really impressive already. I'm gonna set it to performance here, and it should get to 60, I hope. Still applying, by the way. It takes a little bit to apply. No 60. It gets 30s at performance, DLSS, and 8K. Now, I am playing this on a 42-inch monitor, as I told you already. This is a 4K panel, not 8K. I'm using DSR to play at 8K res. I can tell it's a little bit more sharp than a native 4K resolution. But is it a massive difference compared to 4K native? Not really. It is a bit sharper, yes. Oh my god, the car is on fire already. God damn it, man. I want to use a single car. I don't want to, like, fetch for cars here and there. It's annoying. Stop killing my car. For the performance that you get, I would much rather play at 4K, of course. Even if you have an 8K TV or something. If you do have an 8K TV, you probably have a 4090 anyways, right? And you can play this game with much higher FPS, possibly like 60 frames using these same settings or higher. But yeah, with a 4070 Ti, this is just for fun at this point. Nobody should play like this. Doesn't look too different from 4K native or even quality DLSS at 4K. Not a huge difference to the point where I would actually recommend something like this. It is stupid, okay? Now, let's go to the Ultra settings preset now. Disable that FSR over there. And this is Ultra without ray tracing now. We went it at 4K first. Yes. All right, here we go. This is it. It's 4K. Wow, it's getting exactly the same FPS as a performance DLSS at 8K high. Very interesting. Ultra settings are way more intensive than high in this game, and it shows. We were getting like 50s on high, and now we're getting 40s, and it's definitely... Shut up! You can start screaming. You can start... Come on, I won't F off. Let's go after her. I bet it's Bob's sister or something. She's driving away. We need to get to her. We need to explode this car near her. Yes, that's exactly what I'm gonna do. Also, FPS here, dropping into the low 30s. This is her, guys. This is her. Come over here. I really do want you to lose your patience, yes. Also, I find it super weird that it looks like it's starting to get to daytime, but it's still 3 a.m. It's really weird here in Cyberbug. The future is gonna be weird. No! Why are you running away from me, you bastard? Stop. Bob's sister, get over here! No, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do this, damn bastards! Can I get in the car, please? Where is the F key to get into the car? I don't get it. Why? Doesn't matter, okay, guys? So this is it for Ultra settings. Let's enable quality DLSS next. Okay, back to it, getting close FPS to what we saw previously at high settings, native res, you know. But again, you know what? I don't think the difference in quality between Ultra and high is that huge, so I would just play on high instead of Ultra. It looked insanely beautiful already, and this is what we get here. 50s. Nah, I'm actually gonna enable FG first. Now quality DLSS. Alright, now we're in the 70s. Now when you... Yeah, this is definitely a lot more input laggy than previously. Whenever you are getting like 30s and 40s and enable frame generation and you start getting 60 plus, you can tell a little bit that the input lag is still kind of the same as it was at 40-ish FPS. Might be slightly better, and it definitely feels way smoother. But yes, you can tell the difference now between like 70 FPS native and these FPS using the frame generation stuff. Oh yeah, somebody told me to check out the view from inside of the car. I'm trying to... there we go, yeah. Getting 91 frames per second. If I go third person, we get 83. So it's a major difference between third and first person. I guess if you don't mind playing the game in first person, you can get 10 more FPS on average or so if you just go first person. We went from a not very enjoyable 4K Ultra experience with 30-ish FPS to 60 plus all of the time. Now 2560 by 1440 using the Ultra settings without upscaling, and wait a second, it didn't apply the without upscaling part. Oh yeah, DLSS frame generation is still enabled. Yeah, you can use that without DLSS enabled, by the way. But here we go, this is it, Ultra settings at 4K. Seems to be getting us, again, like 20 less FPS than previously on high. Maybe even less than that sometimes. Can we get into this? Please run. God damn it. It's so annoying sometimes, the controls here. And the FOV, it doesn't help either, by the way. I hate the low FOV in this one. Anyway, let's continue. 80 still. That's a very good car. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh, so many people. Stop crossing the road. Are you mad? What the hell, dudes? Seriously, you see a maniac like me every single day here in Cyberbug. I'm not even, like, reloading my previous save or anything. I've been there already. Did they not watch the news? I bet I am in the news. Like, maniac runs over Bob 300 times in a row. Like, why are they still there? I don't get it. Now at this res, you can play at native resolution absolutely fine. As you can see, it doesn't drop from 60 FPS whatsoever. 1% lows are at 56. I don't know where they come from because I did not see it drop from 60. Alright, this is really buttery smooth, honestly. No need to use DLSS at this resolution. But if you want to use DLSS at this resolution, quality DLSS will give you 100 FPS plus in this area. But yeah, over here, it's not even dropping. Wow. And, you know, there are a lot of people that might enjoy the DLSS look more than native res just because it's that little bit sharper. Like, I do enjoy it more, especially on my 4K monitor at 1440p. Basically, if you don't care about ray tracing, guys, and you're playing at 4K, you should play at high with DLSS quality enabled. If you're playing at 1440p and you don't care about ray tracing, you should play without DLSS at native resolution and ultra settings. And if you want to, of course, max out a high refresh rate monitor at 4K, you can use FG to get a little bit more FPS on high. Or if you have a 144Hz 1440p monitor, this is the way to go. If you want to max that out, of course, 154 FPS here at ultra settings with DLSS quality and frame generation. This feels, and it still looks, absolutely fantastic, guys. High was already pretty impressive, but now I can actually tell a little bit of a difference. And let's go down to 1080p resolution. No upscalers are enabled, and we're getting 120s maxed out GPU usage, even at 1080p, by the way. So if you want the native 1080p resolution experience, you can have it with high refresh rate, which is nice to see, of course. Also, not seeing too many bugs today, unfortunately. I loved it when we could see a bug every single benchmark run. It kept things more interesting, in my opinion. Please, Cyberpunk developers, bring back the bugs. Yeah, 1080p, there's just no point in enabling DLSS, as you know already, because it's already CPU bound, and if we do enable that without FG, it gets the same FPS. So I'm going to go ahead and enable FG right away, quality FSR at the same time. Can we get 300? No, probably not, because we didn't have 300 at the high settings. But we can get 200s once again. So that's it for 1080p, I guess. If you are really into that 200 plus FPS experience stuff, for whatever reason, like I think it's completely useless in a game like Cyberpunk. But you can have it. You only need the 40 series GPU for that, and no ray tracing at the same time. Well, 4090 can probably get 200 FPS even with RT. And now we should go back to 4K using the ray tracing ultra settings. And that's gonna be it. You know, I'm not gonna do any more settings here. I can actually use Psycho ray tracing instead of ultra ray tracing though, and no motion blur, please. Thank you. All right, so these are maxed out settings without any upscalers and without motion blur. 20 FPS is what we get if we enable all the bells and whistles. And from what I've seen in my previous Cyberpunk videos, Psycho Ray Tracing drops your FPS by like 2 or 3 over Ultra Ray Tracing. So there we go, we'd get like 22 FPS on average or something like that. You might as well max out the game if you really want RT stuff, right? So, that's terrible. You definitely need some DLSS here. There's no way around it. Quality DLSS on Ultra Ray Tracing settings or Psycho Ray Tracing settings gets us 30 frames per second. That's way better than what we've seen previously. That frame time is absolutely atrocious though. Maybe it was still applying things, so I'm gonna restart the counting system here. There we go. Yeah, that's much better. Those 1% lows. Bob! What are you doing? I've never seen you do that. You always run away. What the hell? Okay, so the police are actually shooting at us. I'm not gonna kill you. She was saying I was gonna kill her. She thinks that she's the center of the attention in the world, right? Oh boy. But yeah, the only thing I wanted to do was to kill Bob and make fun of him, because we don't like Bob here. 40-ish FPS. This is... It's not terrible, but it's not super impressive at the same time, is it? Like, I bet a lot of people were expecting higher FPS coming from the 4070 Ti here. Like the 3080 Ti performed around the same as this one, but now we got frame generation and we can get closer to those 60 frames per second. So this is where this starts shining a little bit more, because it still looks very impressive. Still not 60 though, but I guess we can get those 60 if we just do balanced DLSS instead of quality, right? Oh yes, look at that. 60 FPS, I think it now applied everything. Yeah, this is way better. Oh boy, it's starting to stutter. Oh yeah, that's right. I know why it's stuttering. VRAM is maxed out at the moment, because frame generation actually utilizes more VRAM than native res, weirdly enough. Even though you're using a lower resolution with DLSS, FG is VRAM hungry, and it starts stuttering a little bit in some scenarios, so I guess I wouldn't really play like this. Maybe with performance DLSS, things will start looking and playing way better. Oh yes, look at that, 80 frames. By the way, if you set DLSS to auto at 4K, it actually sets it to performance DLSS. So this is the recommendation from Nvidia, basically, for DLSS at 4K. It's performance. A little bit of a stutter there. We haven't seen those. Again, we haven't seen those previously. I mean, if you're into RT, I guess you do get better lighting and better reflections and stuff like that. Better ambient occlusion as well. And you know, FG still looks pretty good, even on performance DLSS, which is amazing. It looks way better still than like 1440p did on my 4K panels. And I would have zero issues playing like this, honestly. So let's do 1440 now. Here we go. This is it. Gonna disable the DLSS and the frame generation, and everything else is still the same. Psycho Ray Tracing and everything. Alright, so this is native 1440p using the RT on maximum. It's not enough for 60 FPS, unfortunately, but I wasn't really expecting that, because even the 4080 got around like 60, I believe, 60, 70 maybe, with a few drops here and there, or even less than 60 FPS, I don't remember. Yeah, the 48, I don't know. But you probably need to go down to 1080p if you want native res with ray tracing. Ray tracing is obviously a super demanding technology. Even the 30 series, which were a huge jump in performance over the 20 series, struggled with ray tracing, you know, especially in Cyberpunk 2077. So no wonder 4070 Ti, which performs around the same as a 3090 Ti at 1440p, gets around the mid-40s on average. Still playable, given the things that we've seen so far in the settings and the frame rates. I wouldn't really use this. Now let's see it with quality DLSS and no frame generation at 1440p. That's a huge improvement. Holy crap! What? Will it even drop from 60 FPS here? Holy, that is just insane. We were getting 40s and now we're getting 60s, comfortably well above 60 FPS. Wow. Again, worst case scenario is around here. and it's not dropping. So you don't even need to utilize frame generation at 1440p if you need the full ray tracing experience. Just set DLSS to quality and it's gonna be buttery smooth, as you can see. Is that GPU usage fluctuating a little bit more now that we have ray tracing enabled? Because ray tracing is not only super GPU intensive, it's also very, very CPU intensive. So that's probably why we're seeing some fluctuation there. And I guess next we need to enable that frame generation with quality FSR. DLSS. You can also use FSR, by the way. Holy! Again, we removed the CPU bottleneck completely because of the AI generated frames. And it's a buttery smooth experience. Got a little bit of a stutter there, by the way, but not a problem. It was one of those that is barely noticeable. And if it doesn't happen again, which it probably won't because VRAM is not maxed out, it's fine. There we go. Bob is gone again. It's great, guys. Oh, we haven't seen Jack yet in this video, by the way. We need to see him. Finally seeing Jack over here, guys. Oh, yes. So this is how you know our life is complete. We've seen everything that there was to see, and now we can die in peace. This is where it starts getting really freaking impressive, guys. Because again, remember, ray tracing, super demanding tech, and it's actually delivering 100 plus FPS basically all of the time. Going down to 1080p now, native resolution first, alright. This is barely enough for 60 plus FPS, guys. It might actually drop from 60 FPS here at native 1080p. Like, the native res stuff using ray tracing is just not possible here, even with the 40 series. Maybe with the 4090 at 1440p or, well, 1080p, it will definitely get like 100 FPS or something like that. It's still not possible for the most part, at least at the targeted resolutions of these cards. But yeah, that's why DLSS is so impressive. Oh my god, how did that all miss? Dude, I need a car. Okay, well, I'm just gonna die now. Let's set DLSS to quality now, guys. Here we go, hundreds now. That's way better. Oh yes, that's what I love to see. Anyway, that's about it for this video, guys. We're CPU bound now, so that means that I will now have to enable DLSS frame generation. Set that to quality. By the way, auto at 1080p is quality. And yeah, we're back into the 100s. Easily a high refresh rate experience at 1080p using RT and all the bells and whistles, as long as you use DLSS and frame generation. The last question is, would I pay 1,000 euros, which is what this card costs here in Europe at the moment, or at least here in Portugal, even more for a premium model like this one? For this kind of experience, probably not. I would wait until the prices drop a bit. I would wait for more competition and stuff like that. Hopefully AMD brings that. And I would wait for mid-range, actual mid-range GPUs at mid-range prices, because that's when they might start lowering the prices of the higher end stuff, because not as many people are buying them. Thank you very much for watching this video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll hopefully catch you in the next one very soon. Love you all. Bye-bye.